Okay,
Alrighty, I'm
I
ready.
think we're live. Let me just double check our Twitch. Yeah, we're live. We're live.
All right, all right.
I don't feel like opening, so one of you guys can open.
I got it. Well, anyone that's in here right now, welcome. Amidst the whole mystery puzzle challenge that's been going on for the past, 5 months or so? As
6.
you guys seen, yes, 6. It's been a while, but
Too long, but
it is concluded a couple weeks ago, and we just wanted to do one final wrap up with all the feedback that we got for the tournament. So I'm BB Forky. I'm joined by Cards of the Heart and Dark Aries. How are you guys doing?
hey guys, how's it going?
Doing okay.
And so basically, we're going to be dividing this up into a couple sections. What we're talking about, we're going to talk about how it was like on our end. Specifically, Cards and Aries had more. Well, they basically did the bulk of the tournament, and I kind of took the back seat right now. But we'll talk about that when we get into it. But I guess since Aries, you were the brain behind this time, go ahead and talk about NPC for us.
All right. Well, the tournament was in the making for a long while. The three of us and some other NPC mods were definitely always talking about wanting to do one like a really large thing to kind of get everybody rallied up. There was a couple ideas that were bounced around, but in the end, we decided to do this mystery puzzle challenge. We figured a mystery tournament would be pretty fun to do, especially since puzzle games are generally the most um, unique ones in the regular mystery tournament. So we figured if we made a whole tournament based around that, it would go over pretty well. It started off strong. We had the largest registration on any tournament hosted by Puzzle General online. I think we had 34 people who registered, which was a good and a bad thing. It was definitely pretty hype at the start that we had 32 and that we got over 32. And the initial idea was because I am staff of NASA Marathon and I'm also uh, mod staff, whatever you'd like to call it, of Puzzle General, we would kind of combine the two communities together in order to create something that would be really cool. Um, the NASA channel definitely has a larger audience than the Puzzle General Twitch, and getting content on it would definitely uh, promote Puzzle General to a larger audience. Maybe not as large as anything like speed gaming or anything, but it does give us more control of the content itself. Anything that goes onto speed gaming goes onto their YouTube channels, and sometimes that's immediate. Sometimes months later, I have to message Feasel that somehow it didn't get uploaded, which it gets fixed, but still, it's just a thing that can happen. There's no control over it. While streaming to the NASA channel, which I have control of, we have access to our own VODs and they can be uploaded to the Puzzle General YouTube, which is exactly what happened. Maybe the moving from Twitch to YouTube was a bit slower than I like, but it's all there. It's all in a nice playlist. It's on our channel. If anybody searches it up, it leads to Puzzle General, which was the goal. There was some help from the mystery tournament side of things by people like Blasphemous Roar. That was really cool. But the original concept was that we would have matches going on live, and they would be streamed to the NASA channel as the primary one, Puzzle General as if there were multiple matches going on and we needed to stream another one at the same time, it would go Puzzle General, and then even Mystery Tournament, Mystery Funhouse got offered as a third channel. That didn't work for a multitude of reasons, and it was mainly just it was the fact that I kind of made the stream too high of a quality production-wise for me to be able to let anybody else do it. Um, if anybody watched the actual streams, it started off with a nice intro video, which is easy, everybody can have access to. But then it had a little intro video showing what game is about to be played. And me being slightly paranoid, I don't like the fact that if I gave the person who'd be restreaming somebody else, if they weren't part of the testing crew or anything like that, if they were actually playing, I didn't want them to have access to the full list of games that's going to be played, because I just don't like. I can trust cards, I can trust Forky, but I just don't want to give the avenue if anything happens, like accidentally, because shit happens. But so for that reason, there was no extra streams on any other Twitch channels. It just wasn't feasible. And beyond those crazy guys streaming a couple matches when I wasn't available because of work, I literally streamed every single match that happened. And it was really hectic at the start. And then we switched over after I kind of thought things through. We switched to a system where we'd stream to a local, well, a server that I own, an RTMP server, and that would actually save the local recordings, because it came to the point where we could not do live matches. There was just too many at once, way too hectic. And the whole point of this tournament, at least to me, was to make sure that every match gets showcased, that you can watch the tournament from start to finish and you can know exactly how it goes. There's no matches that was left out or anything like that, which probably caused a lot of issues, in all honesty. But that's just what I wanted to do. And it was too much chaos for local recordings to happen. People weren't local recording on accident. They forgot it or anything like that. So I switched the server.
It's only not something I did.
Yeah, totally not. Just partway through, just restart your recording. Just overlap a whole another racer. It's cool. Totally didn't happen. But that system, I think, worked phenomenally when people could actually stream, not worry, and then I have access to all the VODs just at any point in time. They just exist. And that happened, and we somehow, because of that, we were able to, a lot of the matches were post. They were not live except for a couple at that point, but we did manage to go through every single VOD. We always found commentators to do the stream. It became sort of like a scheduled type show. There were people actually asking in the NASA Discord, actually, not even Puzzle Journal, but the NASA Discord, when's the next NPC stream? I watch it every night we had it on Sundays, which I thought was kind of cool. From like, you've created something and there's people wanting, they have their schedule set around the fact that this tournament airs at this set time on this set day. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, to interrupt you really quick too, I think that's one of the coolest things that I did like about this tournament, is that, especially with these speedrun tournaments and people's availabilities being different when you find your new matchup, it's really hard to get a consistent schedule, and you have to check back every day that you wanted to. So I think one cool thing about being just like recording it rather than streaming it, like you said, having it on that specific day, so that way you know when to tune in ahead of time. You have to check up still, because you never know, but it was pretty consistent.
Yeah, like I thought it was a decent compromise to just like the hecticness of all the matches. There was some issues with trying to get the tournament moving along. The lower bracket just was not moving at all due to a couple people, and it's probably my fault, honestly. I should have been more pushing on them getting their matches. I'm just not very good at pestering people for these types of things. Like, I'll even forget myself if something's happening. So the lower bracket kind of was stagnant for the most part. And then when we got the lower bracket caught up, the upper bracket then started to lag behind because everybody's schedules were starting to diverge. But we eventually did get all through it. That's pretty much what I wanted to start off with. I don't know if one of you guys have anything you want to say as of right now.
Yeah, I'll jump in right now. So Aries basically said everything that went on with the tournament. Obviously, if you were following along with the tournament, you saw me commentate one match, and that's it. I was pretty distant the whole time. And to start from the beginning, like we did before, me and Aries, Cards, a couple other people in the group, we came up with this idea and stuff. And since it was a tournament, I've kind of been the tournament head to all the speedrun tournaments that we've done in the past. So I was going to make this my goal to like kind of do the structure again. but just with some personal issues, I've had internet troubles for a while. Really, those aren't good excuses there, but I kind of just got demotivated and I kind of like disappear from time to time, and so that's why it became Aries' job at that point. And he's done a lot of event organizing things, but I think this is one of the first times he's actually tackled a tournament, and especially since he mentioned this is the biggest tournament we've had, it's definitely no easy task when you're kind of just like thrown in his face. So I take like 99% of the blame there, because it was supposed to be mostly under my work. But yeah, I guess if I was here a little bit more, because Aries said he's not too strict on some things. That's how I was at first with tournaments too. You kind of just want to be the nice guy and everything. But some people can forget, and it does like drag on. So deadlines and scheduling, if we do this again in the future, or even for our future tournaments, that's something we're going to prioritize immediately, is making sure you know when your deadlines are, like typically if it's a week or something, and maybe even reaching out to people and having like a beforehand what your typical schedule is. We have all those on file, and then we can compare it to whoever your opponent is that week and suggest a time, which would make it easier. Or if we end up just doing recordings and doing one big stream again, because that was a pretty cool idea, honestly. It's hard to say, because if you get, especially with like the early rounds of a tournament, you have so much content you can't really fit it all in one day anyways. But there's just like a whole bunch of different ways to go about that. So I was mostly just like MIA during most of the tournament. And from a couple of glances from behind the scenes, what were some big problems? I think it was just probably enforcement on little aspects of all the tournament, or throughout the whole tournament, whether it was like being strict with the schedule, that's why I got behind. And then some like volunteers, myself included, for like testing, because I know like game pools were kind of getting short towards the end. I don't think we just had enough committed testers, myself included, because I maybe tested like 5 to 10 games and that was it. But I think it was just little things of like reminding people. That's like one thing you got to do, no matter how annoying it may be. You have to constantly remind people, and that's how you get something done. So I think little things that kind of just added up to like this big delay, I think that's what hurt the tournament the most. But overall, I think it's good, because it was a learning experience for Aries if he does want to help out or do his own kind of project, whether it be on Puzzle General and NASA. And it's just experience for everybody, and we know what to do for next time. So one event at a time, we learn a little bit more, and I'm excited to whatever's going to come next. I guess we're thinking about it, but hopefully within the next month or two, we're going to have our next project on Puzzle General up and running. But yeah, that's about it for me, like, because I wasn't involved too much. I'll give the last word to Cards, since I think he was the rescuer at the last half of the tournament. I'd say he came in pretty clutch.
Yeah, I did kind of have to pull up my bootstraps and take a bit more of an active role than I originally thought I was going to do. Like going into this tournament, I thought I was just going to have to basically moderate, proctor, judge, whatever it would take to make sure that some matches were able to get played fairly, and then all of a sudden I'm running around looking for games to add to the pool. I'm yelling at players to schedule all their matches. I definitely took on a bit more than I was expecting to do going into it, but I do like being a little more hands-on with the process, and I can see myself going forward with hopefully our next mystery puzzle challenge. Maybe we can maybe I can play a bit bigger of a role in like the logistics of the matches themselves. Like I can see myself getting more involved with the testing of the games, vetting them as actual puzzle games, and then hopefully overseeing a bunch of the matches like I continued to do at to the very end. And I think the biggest issue I think the biggest issue I had with this tournament in general, it was a lack of structure. Like forget whether a whole bunch of things were scheduled and whether there should have been deadlines and all the rounds. There just wasn't a lot. There just wasn't a lot. There just wasn't a lot of organization to the tournament itself. Like if you wanted to look for the rules for the tournament, and it was like how would you even find the rules to?
It was like a
The tur-
pinned thing in the players' lounge.
Yeah, that wasn't probably made very public or
No.
very clear. So
There was a lot of
place-
things that weren't particularly clear. Not to stop you in your tracks, but like even the submission process was not. There's a lot of dumbing proofing that I know that has to be done with a lot of things, but didn't. Like for the game submissions, there was no pace bins, which was really interesting considering everybody is used to pace bins in their mystery tournaments. So it was more blind than a lot of other tournaments. So you can continue.
Yeah. I simply want to going forward try to be a little more hands-on with the execution of all the matches, just to provide a little more of the structure that is going to be needed for any future mystery tournaments going forward, because some of the things we had in place now aren't going to scale all that well to larger groups of participants. So if the tournament grows to something big where we have over 100 players regularly registering, then there are things we're going to have to revamp, and we're going to need more manpower. And I feel like I'm up to the task to play a much bigger role in these tournaments going forward, because I do love this idea. I'm not. I will admit I'm not a huge fan of playing the games myself, but I love watching these. I love watching these games. I love the mystery concept, and yeah, I would like to make sure it is a success going forward.
I think the idea is solid. It's just the execution that has to be done up a bit. Basically, I mean, with regards to manpowers, we had quite a bit of people who signed up to volunteer, be it game testing or restreaming or anything like that. It's just that all of a sudden, when the tournament started, nobody was able to be found at all. So a lot of, for example, the game testing ended up being me or those crazy guys. People who signed up to be moderator didn't really moderate at all. Not that they could have, because of the way that the streams and everything worked out. But game testers kind of branched out, didn't happen. Restreamers all of a sudden died off. There wasn't really many people available. And then even though there wasn't many people available, because of the whole structure, I was pretty much stuck doing it all anyways, except for those crazy guys for those couple matches. So there's that. And talking scalability wise, there was I'll admit this was a mistake. I was stuck in the hype of trying to get the largest tournament possible, and I was worried that it might not hit it. That I allowed people to sign up without any games, and that was a mistake because the game pool was already on the smaller side because it was one submission per registrant in a double elimination tournament. Big
Yeah.
mistake right there. And it's an even bigger mistake when a good portion, I want to say 5 or 6 people at most, did not submit a game as well. Or if they did, there was also duplicate submissions as well, which didn't help either. There was, I'll say the games right now, that Puzzle Popless game, that was submitted by like 2 or 3 people. There was another game that was also submitted by 2 or 3 people. So I've already gimped our game pool, and then it got gimped even more from my decisions. So that's not going to happen again. That's lesson learned right there.
Yeah. So what's the easy fix for that? Just require two submissions per participant. to cover a bunch of that
I
shortfall?
would think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on how much work you want to put into it. Like, you can do the 2-game submission, which pretty much covers it, because obviously in double elimination you're going to play 2 matches, so that covers it pretty well. You can do 1, but the problem that we had with this is we didn't have a lot of games to begin with. You would just have to find them on your own and dig up a whole bunch of other games, which is possible, but that's a lot more time on your hands. So it's depending on how much responsibility, I guess, you want to dedicate to someone, because obviously 2, even 1 game for some people, they kind of just want to join and play. That's what people want to do in tournaments, make it easy as possible. And not saying it's a bad thing, but sometimes like 2 games, if someone's got to test through something, especially if they're like an undecided person, then they might be less likely to join. But I think where we're at with this tournament, if you don't want to dedicate hours and hours of your life to playing through a bunch of extra games, that's a good way to go. Because the true diehard mystery fans will still join the game. And I guess that's the crowd you want to appeal to. As long as the tournament's still running smooth, worry about entrance another time. Just worry about the flow of the tournament.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a lot different if we. I think I can say with certainty this tournament will happen again. There's just a lot of different things that have to change. Like the timing of the tournament was actually not ideal. We tried to go for the GDQ hype train. Terrible decision, personally. I didn't. The problem is everybody wants to get on the GDQ hype train. So all of a sudden you have so many different events that are happening within close proximity to each other. And people are like, well, I don't want to join this one because I'm already dedicated to this one. So I don't want to have conflicts between the two. So I think starting it sometime after the whole GDQ hype events have kind of already happened and people have their time freed up again would go along a lot better.
Yeah, that I will take a lot of the blame there. I pushed out the date pretty hard on that, and yeah, probably not doing it immediately after GDQ is the best thing, unless you have it like planned really, really far in advance and know exactly what you're doing. Because there are always a lot of last minute things that come up for tournaments, trying to figure out people's schedules and stuff. And considering a good portion of our crowd is from the speedrunning side, I mean, that's what the goals are. It's like speedrunning. Their attention's focused there. A lot of things end up changing last minute, and then that's when you get like this disorganized mess at the beginning.
Yeah, I think it might help to coordinate more with SRL mystery staff on this front, because it was mentioned earlier we wanted to get more of the mystery crowd, and we did get this tournament off the ground at a point where SRL mystery was going on in full swing. So there were people dedicated to that tournament that were trying to dedicate to our tournament, and people were just stretched too thin. Some explicitly decided to step away from the duties with our tournament while that mystery term was going on. So we definitely want to coordinate with them a bit more. We may want to piggyback off of their tournaments instead of the GDQ instead of the GDQ events, because yeah, there are a bunch of mystery people that do get involved in these tournaments. And yeah, I mean, our finals are basically two veteran mystery participants. So maybe we might want to try to open up signups for our tournament as sometime around when the actual SRL mystery ends, because there are going to be people itching to get in on the mystery tournaments at that point. That seems like the biggest opportunity to draw in potential people. That might be the best opportunity for us to grow.
Yeah, I agree with that 100% actually. And it's funny that we think about it. Like, we're going to be showing the feedback forms probably in a little bit now, but the one thing you're going to see the most is like the time it took for it. And it's funny enough, like, I think we had a projected time for it to be done before Mystery Tournament, SRL Mystery Tournament was going to begin, which you laugh thinking about it now, considering it went way past that projection. But I think when I was talking to Boney the first time, they were aiming for like a late February, and I'm like, all right, if we get this done 1 week at a time, maybe we'll get it done, or it'll overlap just a little bit into it, which wouldn't be too bad. But yeah, just with several issues all around the board, beginning rounds got delayed a little bit, and then there were specific matches that got held up for like a month or longer, however long it may have been. And that's why instead of ending late February, it ended in May. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, SRL Mystery 12 like began and ended during our
Yeah,
tournament,
they kicked our tournament's ass basically.
Yes.
With what, triple or quadruple the amount of entrants? How many did they have this year?
Quite a bit. The one thing that I need to talk a bit with Blast about is if every match was restreamed and stuff like that, because that was one of the things. If we did the thing that we normally do on our tournaments and just not care about the first round of matches, and we probably would have pushed a lot quicker, because that initial thing is just so many matches.
Yeah, I'm for one getting a lot of content, but since, like you said, there's a lot grouped up at the beginning, I think it's good to take a select number, but there's always the people who are, I guess, shaky on time or making commitments last second. You can definitely skip out on some of those. It's not necessary for it. You could just have, since people are streaming, you could even make like a shout out, be like, hey, if you want to watch this match, just check out these personal Twitch channels because it's going on. But yeah, I think definitely, for at least for early rounds, it's not necessary to capture everything, and that's kind of how we've done in the past too. Like, though I want to switch those setups a little bit. I remember doing the Pokemon Puzzle League tournament was right before Mystery Puzzle Challenge. I don't think we streamed a single groups round, which is kind of sad to think about now because there were a lot of good matches going on during it. But I think you can find that balance to just like, getting a couple good matches, because generally we know like the strong competitors. So if we see a good matchup for that week, we're like, all right, let's grab them and showcase that. And then obviously once you get towards the ends of the tournament, there's like 2 matches or 1 match to be played that week. Instant, easy.
I think we just don't have the manpower to do the initial burst of matches is really the problem. If we had a speed gaming amount of restreamers, it would definitely work out. But when it boils down to essentially just myself, it doesn't work all that well. So.
Mm-hmm.
No. I do like the idea of just scheduling a time to showcase certain matches like we were able to do for this tournament. Just have that steady stream that people can know that there are going to be matches at this on this day at this time, and we can either pre-record those, or we can have entrant participants register for those time slots. I do like the idea of having that scheduled showcase to either show off a few of the more interesting matches, or maybe if there are no matches, just do a general recap of how the tournament is progressing. That might be something that more people want to tune into, I think.
Yeah, I like that idea. If there's no matches, just do a recap. And I definitely do agree. The scheduled thing is really cool. The one thing that since you mentioned, is like the sporadicness of the matches. I think it definitely kind of killed momentum a bit at the start there, because you never knew when a match was actually taking place on stream. So it was just way too hectic, and it actually, because I like being transparent about these things. There's no reason for me to hide any of the stats. The viewership at the start of NPC was definitely at a very good amount. It was a lot larger than anything we could have wished for on Puzzle General. And then at one point it dipped to the numbers that Puzzle General has on like an off day, because it was just so sporadic. You only knew like a day before that anything was going to happen, and then if the game was short, it was only like a half-hour stream, and it was just not worth anybody's time. So when we switched to the Sunday streams, you immediately saw that the viewership started to climb right back up, because people were mentally being prepared, like, okay, so it's this day, it's this time, and there's probably going to be an NPC stream. So the viewership started to climb back up, and it did reasonably well. It did better than most Puzzle General streams, so that was the whole point. It might have not gotten the numbers that a marathon gets on NASA, so I don't know. Maybe the audience just isn't there for a tournament like this, or maybe there was the logistical issues kind of shied people away from it. Maybe it won't be on NASA next time. We'll see what happens going forward, but the middle of it was not such a success, but the beginning and end of it were definitely a success on hosting it on a different Twitch channel. So
Yeah, I think it was a combination of those factors with a little bit of the sporadicness, and NASA wasn't known for specific content like that. I think it was a good change. And like you said, there's people asking for matches a lot. So there's definitely still interest for this. We just have to find that perfect formula. But I guess, we pretty much covered all of it for right now. I guess we can just tell our final thoughts and things we're going to try to implement in the future. But unless you guys have something else to say, I guess we can start going over some specific feedback comments.
yeah, I'm pretty good to go over the feedback.
I think that takes care of the more pressing issues that took place in this tournament. Yeah, let's take a look at some specific feedback then.
Let me see if I can do a small window. Actually, no, I won't window capture. That's too much effort right now. But there was a survey that went out, and there was actually 12 people who responded. So out of a tournament of 34 and a viewership of larger than that, it makes about sense. Most people don't, like, even if you go to like a grocery store or something, you oftentimes just throw out the survey. So the fact that there's only a dozen responses is about normal for a thing like this. I will window capture one thing. Hold up.
All right, I guess we can start. You said you are bringing it up, though, Aries?
Yeah, I'm just changing my Discord thing
cool.
to it. I don't know how large that is on stream, but
yeah, we basically had a couple different questions asking on specific things. We'll go over specific responses, but like as Aries has up right now, we're just gonna talk about the graph that presented. So our first one listed was, how satisfied were you with the event? It was on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. A lot of people were in the middle with 3s. A lot more responses on the lower side than the higher side, for obvious reasons there. But yeah, I think I guess trying not to be non-biased for someone who does stuff with Puzzle General, it's probably within that 2 or 3 range, just because there were some obvious flaws, and mostly the scheduling, which we're going to be talking about over and over, probably was a really big issue that alone just tanked the rating of it. So what do you guys think with the ratings from everyone on here?
I personally gave the tournament a 3. Like it was there were definitely some highlights to it, but there were also some glaring problems that we have gone over to some extent. So yeah, it was very hit and miss, and I think it was okay for for a first try.
Yeah. You got to put that in the count too. Sorry, go ahead, Aries.
No, I was gonna say like the personally, I wish I could give it a lot higher of a score because there was a lot that we achieved, like production value wise and everything like that. There was the nifty layouts that occurred, the fact that every single match was streamed, the fact that we had the little intro video and the reveal of each game. That was all really cool, and it kind of bumps it up. But then just everything else of the tournament just brings it down. So like on a production wise, I want to give it like a 3.5 to be fair. But overall in the tournament, I would probably bump it down to like a 2.5 or a 3. It could be better. A lot of it can be improved. Yeah, I would rate the tournament above average or average after everything has been said and done. So
Yeah, I agree with that too. And mostly, if I were to personal rate both of you a 4 and me put a 0 on there for me. add an extra one on there. That's why it makes it like a below average rating for me. But yeah, I'll make sure. Like, there's just been like so many issues, like I guess just personal issues. But now, for the longest time, it was PC and internet. Both of those are fixed, so I'm more motivated than ever. So hopefully we can get better flowing tournaments in the future, because I'd really like to be much more involved in this if we do it next time.
Good.
I guess let's hop to question number 2. So this was one of the positive sides of it. We just asked people, what's your favorite part of the tournament? And we had a couple responses there, and it looks like most of the times it was just like blind racing different games, the game selection and things like that. So those were the ones that mostly stuck out. I see that someone had a specific game on here with Puzzle for NES.
Ooh, that's yeah.
I guess we'll have Cards and Aries elaborate more on that, because I did not see a lot of the games that went on.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure what much was there to say about the game selection. I didn't really have an opportunity to test a bunch of the early games, and there were several user submissions that were pretty solid. I think some would say the overall quality of the games chosen went down a little bit as the tournament progressed, but I think the early rounds had some pretty good gems in there.
So I mean, I think the problem really stems from the fact that it goes back to the one submission thing, and it also goes to the fact that a major portion of the tournament was mystery players, and mystery players have played a lot of mystery puzzle games. So even if there was a good game, it wouldn't necessarily be played if it was up against somebody like Aaron or Saiho or anybody like that, because they've already played it. So that kind of leads into the quality of the game that has to get picked out as well. Puzzle is just one of those games that somebody submitted. It was it's in block image tile swap type game, and because there was like no kind of info really for it during testing, we just got walled on a level, because it turns out that you have to use this kind of not really mentioned mechanic of rock paper scissors in order to swap a tile beside it. Otherwise the puzzle is literally impossible to solve, and it ended up just being smashing the paper or the rock paper scissors button and to see who gets it first. So that was a bit of a disappointment. But I mean, it was a solid puzzle game. It was a tile game. It was like a Mystery 15 style puzzle. Just slide all the things and to get the right image. So, I mean, with regards to like some of them, some puzzle games, they were maybe less puzzle than others, but I still think they met the criteria of being a puzzle game. And when your goal is to have games that people haven't played, you're just going to end up with some of those games, and you might end up with those games later on in the match, later on in the tournament, because that's just like if that's just the way it is. If you take away things from the pool, you're only left with games in the pool, and it's not like there's any other options. So it's just the
Hmm.
way it happens sometimes.
And that's going to come up a little bit on the next question coming up to that, though. But I agree with Aries completely, especially with just the genre puzzle for video games. Obviously, it's never really been the most popular genre, unless you include Tetris. But I guess there's multiple reasons why that game has sold so much. But I think it's good that we included some games like that, because I think as long as it has like any kind of logical thinking that you can get stuck at certain steps, it should be included in this tournament. Maybe it's not how we conveyed it though. Maybe we made people think that it was going to be like strictly, arcade puzzlers or like platform puzzlers or just like step by step games. So maybe if we let people know about that to where it branches off into, it could be like just like it's gonna come up here, but I'm a little bit biased since I run at something like Goof Troop. The puzzle aspect is so short in that game, but I think it's still a pretty unique experience. And if we found more games like that, I think it would be fine. Because especially since some of those puzzles you can get walled on a little bit, that's going to be a bulk of the playtime, depending on what levels you're doing. So I think it's fine to include things like that. Probably we should be a little bit more transparent when we say it, but yeah, that just gives us a bigger play field overall.
Yeah, I was gonna mention something about how we wanted to determine whether a certain game is a puzzle game or it has enough puzzle elements to be a challenge to people that play a lot of puzzle games that we're probably going to be attracted to this tournament. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure going in how he wanted to define a puzzle game, and maybe that did not translate well to the participants themselves submitting games. So it probably would be better, like you said, Forky, just make that clear going forward with the future mystery tournaments that these are the types of games that we're looking for. We're not looking for games that are strictly puzzle games, but we want stuff that has a lot of elements of puzzle games in them as part of the main core of the gameplay. I think making that I do agree making that more clear would have left a better taste in everyone's mouths, I would think.
Yeah, and to elaborate on what Saber said in the chat, actually, with the inclusion of arcade puzzlers, not a lot of people were fond of them. This is something that it's pretty weird for this kind of setting, because obviously most of the games that were in our tournament or just in mystery tournaments in general, it's a pretty linear path. And with arcade puzzlers, I mean, it's just like a stage by stage basis. The opponent's getting a little bit harder. I don't think you should get rid of all of them. I think maybe there should just be a little bit less of them and probably more obscure ones because people can figure them out easier than other. I think it's something that makes the genre pretty popular though, so it's hard to think of a way to go about that. Maybe because you don't want to spoil all the mechanics, but you don't want someone to be super stuck. Like if we had a game like Puzzle League in a mystery tournament, which we never would. It's a pretty well known game, but if someone got the mechanics pretty instantly and another person's just struggling, like what if they didn't know you could make chains? Like they just thought, hey, clear a bunch and maybe outlast the opponent and I win. That becomes a little bit of an issue. So like catching on quicker, because I mean you could say that for linear games as well, but I guess you're always slowly progressing. So even if you don't get it immediately, usually by trial and error, you can progress through the game, which that's not really the case, I'd say, in arcade puzzlers. Sometimes you can just be stuck forever. But that's hard to say. I don't know. That's my take on arcade puzzlers. Don't get rid of them, but maybe just find a better way to incorporate them, I guess.
I mean, if this is in regards to the Tetris games, I'd like to go over that a little bit. Even if it's not, I still want to go over it a little bit. Um, the Magical Tetris Challenge was a submission. I didn't even have to submit it. Somebody else did. But I think, because one of the rules that I did was no mainline Tetris games allowed. And I think people took that as being no Tetris games allowed, which was not the case at all. Sorry, I'm just trying to fix something here.
You're good. You're good.
There. So with Magical Tetris Challenge, it definitely is very different. It is not a Tetris game that even people good at Tetris excel in. People who are very good at Tetris Grandmaster, like Kevin TDR, suck at Magical Tetris Challenge because it defies everything else. The garbage system throws these crazy, wacky pieces at you, and I thought that was fairly entertaining. Mainly due to the fact that even if you're good at Tetris, you can suck at this game because it's just a different line of thinking. It's not your regular 4 pieces, and you kind of got to do that. There's some strategy involved in it, and I tried to make I actually went out of my way to make a decent paste bin for this game to kind of explain the mechanics a little bit and stuff like that. As far as I remember, it might have been garbage, but I did put in a little more effort into this game in comparison to other games, and I think from a viewer perspective, it probably went okay, but the people playing it might not have liked it all that much because it's not an easy game, but it's also
Mhm.
not a very long game either. So I knew that with, and the thing is with puzzle games, it can be very easy for somebody to pick up, or it can take a lot longer for somebody to pick up. You just don't know. So within regards to that games, it definitely worked from a viewership perspective. The runners, I think, if you're just not a fan of those types of games, it's gonna suck. But I mean that's the whole thing, right? You don't know what you're gonna get. And sorry, but you might not always get your favorite puzzle genre in a mystery tournament. With Tetris Plus, which was the other arcade Tetris game that kind of got played, I don't understand what the issue, if anybody had issues with that game, is because you don't have to be good at Tetris to play that game. You have to be good at getting the little man to the bottom of the screen. Um, so, I mean, it does add a little bit of a challenge, but again, you don't have to necessarily be really good at Tetris to do well at that game. You just have to understand that if I clear this line and there's a too wide gap, this little man will fall through it, and it will work. I think just I think with I think games like this would do better on the Puzzle General crowd in comparison to the Mystery Tournament crowd,
Mhm.
basically. The Puzzle General people enjoy arcade puzzlers probably a lot more than the Mystery Tournament
Hmm.
people. And I think it happened that the Mystery Tournament people ended up with the arcade puzzlers. So it's a little bit unfortunate, but again, it's a puzzle game through on through. It's definitely fair from like a versus speedrun perspective. So it's just what it is. So I don't see how Tetris Plus is any different from that like Daedalus Opus game where both involve like pentominoes or tetraminos or anything like that and trying to piece everything together, except one is actiony in comparison to the other. I don't know. It's still the same concept, so I don't know. One is obviously a lot more entertaining than the other because one's like, oh my god, like is it about to get? Oh, you got squished, and the other's like, all right, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting. Oh, okay. So I mean, even though it might suck for the runners, there's also trying to create an entertaining stream for the people watching. So
Yeah, I think to piggyback off of what Saber said in the chat as well, having the mechanics laid out, like just a random idea I thought about, like even showing a short little demo, because you're going to be doing the same thing over and over again, just with progressing difficulty. Why not, like, right before the race starts, show the audience and the participants, just a couple quick little things. So, I mean, it's not really spoiling it, I guess, because there's still some things to be figured out, but that could maybe be one solution. I just know that, like like what you said, Aries, getting rid of them completely, it's not the answer. Mostly because those type of games have like a really rich history in the puzzle genre, so you want to stick with those games in the tournament. So I think as long as we can find the most appropriate way to fit it in and feel like each person has kind of an equal chance, or at least they know what they're doing, and obviously the person who's still generally better at the game is going to win the match. We just need to find that middle ground for it. I think we might have lost cards.
We did. I'm sure he'll be back in a moment. The other thing that, well, I'll start talking while we're still on this section of the feedback while we wait for cards, is there's quite a few people who said that they enjoyed the tiebreaker or sudden death. I thought that was actually one of the cooler things that I kind of came up with in the heat of the moment. The original idea, for those who didn't know, was I dislike the way that Mystery Tournament does their tiebreakers, or and whatever you'd like to call it, where if people
The timeout.
yeah, if people can't beat the goal in a set amount of time, then they just play the game again. I thought that's pretty stupid. I don't know how other people feel about it, but personally, I feel that's pretty stupid. It's just everybody's time is wasted at that point, and I didn't want to waste people's time. So originally, the thought process was that, okay, if two people get stuck on stage 10 and the goal was get to stage 12, after an hour's time, both runners will just start from the beginning and see who can reach stage 10 the quickest again. Like a little, this was your practice and now here's your speed run. People did not like that idea. I can see why. It's like playing it over again. If it's not a fun game, it's not going to be fun to go through it all again, or anything like that. So after discussing with everybody, the solution that I came up with and kind of everybody agreed upon was that, or that we together as a collective group came upon, I should say, is that when the timer runs out at an hour, the first person to beat the stage is declared the winner. And it ended up leading to a very hype moment where there were two people. They were playing Keeper, I believe, on the Super Nintendo, and they were both on the same stage. And one of them just got to it, and the other person was already on it but could not figure out the solution, and it led to a very hype moment. There's cards. We're just talking about the tiebreaker decision thing.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, good. Yeah. Don't mind me. My house is haunted. No big deal.
no worries. But so that was pretty cool. And the other portion of the tiebreaker was that if both people did not beat the goal after an hour, whoever is closest to beating the goal wins. So if one person was on stage 9 or one person was on stage 10, the person on stage 10 would win because they got ahead of the other person. This kind of changed things up a bit for some people. You couldn't do stages out of order. You had to do stages in order. But honestly, I prefer this tiebreaker system in comparison to the timeout system in Mystery Tournament. Personally, I think it doesn't waste people's time. I think it leads to some fairly hype moments. So I'm glad others enjoyed it, because I thought that was one of the best things to kind of come out of the tournament logistically. I don't know if Cards has any thoughts on our tiebreaker sudden death system.
Well, I just wonder if there is a way to tweak it. Like there are two things, two questions I had going through my mind thinking about how we did the tiebreaker. Do we want to? Did we want to track progress throughout the match, and then just anyone who makes the most makes the most progress and completes the most stages at like any point during the hour wins the match, or is it just at the hour where each person is at, and maybe how long after the how long should sudden death go? Like, should it be 15 minutes? Should it be 30 minutes? Do we just re-roll the game if no one else has made any progress at that point? Like what would like what well I've been brainstorming like what would be better as far as our tiebreaker is concerned.
To add on to that, since you were a person who participated in Tuso Grande for quite a while cards, they went with the method of after a certain time limit, the person who was farthest wins. Is that correct?
That it was any level of progress through the game. So if there was a game that had 10 levels in it, but player one had gotten to level 9 at one point during the hour.
Oh, peak progress, yeah.
Yes, peak progress. That's what percentages Kuso Grande tournaments do, and I wonder if that's something we should consider.
What's your opinion on that compared to the sudden death rule? Which one do you prefer, or which do you think works better?
Like the sudden death should be a tiebreaker. Like well that's a thought, because if both players get to the same stage at some point, but at the hour mark one person is like a stage behind and the other had to restart their game and is on like stage 2 or something really early on. Like maybe part of the tiebreaker should be if both players got to the same place but had to restart progress, maybe at the hour mark whoever is furthest ahead at that point should be a win for that person at that point. So maybe we could judge peak progress as well as progress at the hour mark as a second level.
Yeah, I like the combination of the two, because just different games have different points. Like if you're playing a level by level game, sometimes the peak spot can be the same for both players, so that's when you would need that sudden death. But I guess before we drag on too long about this, I think we did pretty good on this. We can go ahead and jump into our next section, which is going to be starting most of the critical parts of this. Our question was, what did you think was the weakest part, or what the weakest part of the tournament was? And so we got quite a few responses here. Most of them was the scheduling, how long it took for the matches to go throughout the months, lack of moderators and like just random staff, some people that disappeared. This guy right here is a big problem.
Which one?
We
Quality.
don't need to point me out twice, but yeah, just some things like that, and then some games listed that we briefly mentioned in the previous question, but some people who thought non-puzzle games or just like bad goals for certain games. And I think a lot of that came down to like things either not thoroughly tested enough, maybe they only had one tester on it, or just different things like that. So I'll let Aries start us off with this. I guess we already talked about the scheduling for the most part at the beginning of this, but was there any specifics you think we haven't mentioned yet that we could improve upon next time?
Scheduling wise, I think it's just we need more moderators / restreamers. If we were to change the tournament, if we were to, for example, do the tournament where it is absolutely a post VOD setup, which I mean, I'm not saying that it will be, but hypothetically, if it was, we would need people actually available to moderate the matches, because even though they were streamed and they weren't streamed to Twitch, there was a moderator, generally me or Cards, still watching the match to make sure that everything was kosher. And the problem is when people are scheduling matches is that if there's nobody available to watch their match, let's say they want to have it at 5 p.m. on a Wednesday, but nobody's available on 5 p.m. on a Wednesday, well, great, that's time wasted. They need to probably get their match is probably going to happen not on Wednesday, but maybe like on a Sunday or next Wednesday, the one after, and it just kills a lot of time. So whatever solution we do have, it will definitely we definitely need more moderators and restreamers to be able to get through the matches a lot quicker, at least from a scheduling perspective. There's other things on the list here, but I'll let you guys get your last words in on scheduling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I should have probably specifically talked about this because this is the thing I have the most ideas with and I've had to deal with in the past. And I've kind of changed it up from time to time to each tournament. But I think the best way to approach this in the future is for all volunteers, for all staff head, for all participants, even for viewers, I think there should be a strict schedule for everyone who signs up to be any part of the tournament. They should give you some general availability, in which we didn't ask for that. But if we do that next time, we'd be like, generally, what are the days you're free? Like, obviously, you're not going to be free every week on those days, but it's something when that week rolls by, we can be like, so did you end up being free on this? Because if so, we'll schedule it in. And the one big problem with that is a lot of people do have some sporadic schedules. They don't work the same days each week. But I don't think it's too big of a deal because people generally, even if they have like a really weird schedule, they kind of know some days that are generally free. And as long as you kind of have that idea, I don't think it's too bad. And then whoever the staff heads are, like myself, Cards, or Aries, we can do at the beginning of the week, just do a bulk, ask all the matchups, ask the restreamers, try to get times ahead of time so we know when the matches are going to happen. And then if we assign shifts to people, like let's just say theoretically we had 7 restreamers who each one was available all day at a specific time, or 8 hours on one of the days. And so you tell them ahead of time, if we found a scheduled thing there, we'll be like, all right, we got a match on Wednesday. Are you going to be able to cover it since you said you generally can do Wednesdays? And then let's say the next week comes by, no one's scheduled on Wednesday. You can tell that Wednesday guy, hey, you're good. You can just relax. Or if he has more flexible things, just wherever they can help out. But I think just knowing generally, making a document where everyone is available. It's a little bit more work for us, but I think it just gives you a better structure. And then you can just like get everything done at the beginning of the week. Not necessarily because some people still are like, I got to wait a couple days, which is fine. But for those shaky people, those are usually the earlier rounds. And if we don't plan on streaming all those matches, then we don't even need to like worry about their game as long as they complete it. Like we don't have to worry about streaming it, but get like a constant availability. That's the one thing I want to stress. Get it done early enough so that way the staff knows what to do, the competitors know what to do, and the people watching can know when to tune in days ahead of time rather than trying to be on Twitter at the moment and see like, hey, this got tweeted out. Let's watch that. But yeah, that's my take on the scheduling.
Yeah. Something that helped quite a bit with SRL Mystery was that they actually had a spreadsheet with where part of the entry form was required to list availability, and this spreadsheet had every single participant listed along with their availabilities on every day of the week, and that really helped me personally trying to figure out when my opponent was going to be available to ask when to do a match. So having some document that shows every player's availability would probably make scheduling matches a lot easier. And I think as far as staff goes, like when we're selecting staff, we should be asking for availability because it doesn't matter if we have 100 moderators if they can only oversee matches within a certain 8-hour period. Like having moderators that are able to cover all the times that players would be available would be something that should be considered heavily during the volunteer selection process. So yeah, the moderator, the staff selection should also take the availability into account a great deal.
Yeah, and I think that just boils down to if we time the tournament properly, where it's not in conflict with other things, the availability of staff will improve, and then the running everything else will improve because of that. So it's just we need to properly align things so our leaning tower of tournament doesn't fall over, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
A thing that I
I
want to
guess
go
that's
over.
about it for the scheduling. Go ahead, Aries.
Yeah, just segueing into a different part here. Reading these things right here. The 10-minute intro. I don't know who submitted this one right here, but I wish there was clarification on which part of the intro.
Are they talking about like the slides at the beginning?
That's what I don't know. Are they talking about the fact that there was an intermission at the start of the stream? Because if it's with regards to the intermission, there's a logical explanation for that. It's the fact that when you hit go live on Twitch, people don't immediately go, "Oh, the stream's live." Even if you tell them it starts at 7, by the time people don't roll in until about like 7:05, 7:10 by the time everything gets up and going. So an intermission kind of just lets people get in there, and logistically, it just also allows to play an ad. Um, Hosting the server it costs money. It's not like NASA makes money off of things that we do. Like I'm not rolling in dough, but like if a mystery puzzle challenge stream generates like 50 cents, let's say, for the one weekend stream, the server costs like $10. After a couple matches, I'll eventually have $5, and then that's $5 out of my own pocket that I don't have to pay for the server. So I mean, it's not much, but that's the logistical reason, really. And if
I think. Mhm.
I think that's one of the more minor issues, or I mean, that's probably not even an issue. Maybe it's just like a mix-up. Maybe start the intermission slightly earlier. Like I always like to play, like get the stream up 10 or 15 minutes beforehand, which I assume that's what we did most of the time. But like
Right.
maybe that's
Yeah,
just
right.
like
So
a confusion from one person.
Yeah, right. So if you say this stream's gonna start at 7 o'clock, and you're gonna have an intermission beforehand, like you're gonna start at 7 o'clock. There's gonna be a 10-minute intermission. Start the stream at 6:50. Like don't wait till 7 o'clock and then have a 10-minute intermission, because some people are gonna want to come in and expect games to be played at 7 o'clock, which is kind of what I do for my own stream. And I was a little curious why we did not quite do it that way.
I think that's how we should approach it too. I think that's another thing, a little bit on communication, because if you do that, then you got to tell whoever's the volunteers are a part of it and the participants, like you need to be probably ready to go 10 minutes prior to it, or 15 as I like to do, and just so like everything's done and you can work on it during the intermission to test any last minute things that may be wrong.
that was just another thing, like as much as I would try to get it beforehand, so like if a 10-minute intermission it starts at 7 instead of starting at 7:10, it's just sometimes with getting the runners all set up and everything like that, it's just not ready. So I can't start it and then start a timer, and then it's going to time out, and then I have a person who still doesn't have their stream live and working. A lot of it boils down to just like, even with the VODs, sometimes it's just like if I'm waiting on anything to happen, it's just it basically I'll take the blame for it, but that there's a reason for it. It's just that we need to fix the reason and the timing for it.
Which the reason for that, like I mentioned, is mostly just like we let everyone know if we're doing it at this certain time, you need to be still available before that time, probably up to a 30-minute gap. So that way you can get settled in and get your stuff set up. So that way we're ready to go right at whatever the scheduled time was. I think that's what it comes down to. Like, I don't think we had a really big... Did we even have a rule set for it to where people can read over the guidelines and things for that? Because that's one thing that would probably be good. just have like this master list, and you can have one section that says preparing for your match, and you can outline all these different types of things, like getting set up early, what you have to expect, what emulator, make sure you have your emulator set up with inputs, like have a test game up, because that's what they do for SRL Mystery Tournament. And that way you want to basically get everything done, let's say that 15 minutes beforehand, because you're always going to assume there's something that's going to go wrong, and if there is, then you have that 15-minute buffer to find out what's going wrong, and then you're good to go. And everyone's there at 7 and expecting to see the gameplay immediately.
So
I don't think we had that like one central place where we can point people to this one thing and like here are all the rules, here's everything that you should be expected to do. I mean, we had in the players lounge that all of the pinned messages, but that's not good. That's not going to be something that a lot of people would know to look at. I mean, SRO Mystery has one big website for everything. We probably don't need a website per se, but
I think we just need like example, like a Google sheet that there's a main page someone can refer to every time, and then it just has like different links you can click on and go to different things. If you have a question how the tournament's being run, if you want to see the schedule, things like that. One central hub, you can advertise it on the specific channel that's in Discord. You can have it pinned as well. Just really easy ways so people know to refer to that one sheet, have it on the tournament page, et cetera, et cetera. And then people can find the extra stuff if they have questions about certain things afterward.
yeah, I think it just boils down to Discord is a terrible meaning for archiving information, basically.
Yeah.
Which is
it's
something
pretty
that
hard.
we don't need the tournament to tell us. We're working on solutions for it, but that's just something else.
Hopefully a website in the future. We've been in talks about it, but still in the very early works of it. We'll see what happens down the line.
The other thing that I just wanted to point out is because we're assuming that this person meant the intermissions, but if they meant like the actual intro to the stream, like a hyperbole 10 minutes when it was just like the minute or two.
If
intro
they're
video.
talking about the intro game, I'm ignoring it because it was like 20 seconds or 30
that's the
seconds.
problem.
That wasn't an issue.
I wish they elaborated it, because if it's
Yeah.
about that little intro video, the one with like the whole mystery puzzle challenge, and then it goes into the reveal of the game, like I'm sorry that it's maybe not the best intro video ever, but if you're a video editor, come talk to me. Maybe we can get something cool working. Like that's
Yeah,
open
it could
to
always be
improvement.
improved. It could always be improved, but it's not like it was an issue. That was the least of the concerns. I think they're probably talking about the intermission, which I can see where they're coming from for there.
Another thing that just kind of going across these submissions as well, long holdups, that goes with scheduling, more scheduling, lack of moderators, which goes back to scheduling, the non-live recorded aspect without a post-game breakdown. I think we should tackle that one before we get to the last non-scheduling point.
Ooh, I missed that one actually. I wouldn't mind, like, I think the main thing is to fix the issues first off, but like a post-game breakdown would be cool. It'd be something to add in the future, but we had to make sure we got everything done first.
I think that there's definitely potential for that. It's we need more me's basically. I wish I could clone myself and get a lot more done, but I think there's definitely a lot, especially if it's VODs. If we, for example, had a video editor and I gave them VODs of the match and they decide to make like a little highlight reel afterwards and the commentators can go after and talk about that, or if the commentators like watching the VOD themselves mark down a time of this is a moment that they want to talk about, and then I can pull it up on stream, for example, and we can replay that, kind of do a little. I don't watch sports, but I'm assuming, but as far as I understand, sports channels do this. Well, they'll pull up highlights of the games and stuff. I think that could be a fairly cool thing to do if we decide to go in a post-VOD tournament system. I think there's a lot of potential there if we did something like that.
And I think that branch is a little bit bigger than NPC itself. I think it'd be just cool to kind of, you would like wrap that up in like just a weekly recap. So if you have multiple events going on or things coming up, you can talk about all the matches that happen and keep people up to date. I think that's one way to go about it. Or if you just get a little bit more on the techie side, even just having like a ticker, if you have extra space, you can cycle through the games and show results of what had happened recently, or if you know matches that are scheduled and upcoming, you could have those shown too and be like, this is going to be happening tomorrow, this is where you can catch it. There's a lot of ways to approach that, but I think that's a like something we have to finally just get a structure first, and then we can talk about how making it a little bit easier for the viewer experience and keeping people up to date.
Like, this is hitting that production quality thing that I really enjoy looking into. So whether we'll get to something like that is TBD. But I do like trying to do something with a post game breakdown in some capacity. So I don't know if
I can give some insight as to why we didn't do more of that. Because having been someone that moderated a bunch of the matches towards the end and commentated a bunch of the matches towards the end, commentators generally did not see the videos beforehand. Like for the most part, aside from myself, everyone else watching the match was in the dark about the outcome of the match. And I know if I had access to the videos beforehand, I would make some effort to look through them and look for specific points. So that way I know if we get to this time in the match, then I want to look to this player's screen for this play that they made, or go to the other person's stream for a mistake that was made, and try to guide more of the viewing audience of the things that are happening kind of in that real time. But we didn't have access. We really didn't have access to the videos ahead of time, so we wouldn't have had that much an opportunity to formulate a plan for discussing the post game, and still have the ability to give a play-by-play of the match as it was going on. So I don't know if that's something in our process that we should have to change at some point in order to go for a system like that, just to have more advanced notice of the things that are going to happen.
I think it just involves, again, trying to do things on the fly requires more manpower, and if you don't have more manpower, it requires more time for the people who are involved, which there was kind of a lack of in both directions. So it's just, we kind of did what we could. The other kind of point that I just wanted to bring up, this one's kind of hitting back on the scheduling, but quality of races in brackets: shit games, non-puzzle games, bad goals, no pay spins. The rest of it says tournament took forever to finish, which obviously scheduling, and also the fact that people should have been disqualified, and limited options for scheduling matches. I think there's a lot that can be discussed in that feedback. So I'll let one of you guys start.
if we had to disqualify people for inactivity, there was a point where we probably would have had to disqualify half the tournament, because I know at least one of our winners bracket participants was away for 2 weeks at a game developers conference, and so that was one of the big issues holding up the winners bracket. I don't remember all the different issues with the lower bracket, but yeah, we would have ran out of competitors somewhat quickly if we decided to disqualify people. But if we just have the deadlines known ahead of time, we can better inform people, and they can make a more informed decision if they want to get involved with the tournament in the first place.
Yeah, DQ should always be an option. but like you said, you guys, just the way it was all organized beforehand, it really wasn't the best interest to do certain rounds, I would say. But yeah, if we improve on the structure beforehand, it's kind of what we've been talking about most of the time. Usually that'll fix a lot of the later problems, which is something like that. So people know specifically, we've given them all the resources, we know their availability, and they still are unable to meet the deadline. That's when it's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's that's what it boils down to. The part that I kind of, because I don't have any extra opinions on the disqualification. If I wanted to disqualify people, I probably would have been better at making sure that people are actually doing their matches. So that's kind of my view on it. I'm not very good at that, so that's just how we need more people beyond me trying to run this thing, which is what we've gone over multiple times. The part that I kind of want to focus on personally is that first part, the quality of races. The shit game, non-puzzle games, bad goals, and no pay spins. We've gone over the no pay spins. That's an easy fix. Make sure that the submission process has a pay spin. Bad goals. That's I don't know if I can agree with the bad goals per se, because again, people, at least in the start, there was definitely there's 2 to 3 testers that would do each game, and we would confirm if a goal was completable in the time frame or not. I'm sorry, maybe I'm not as good as puzzle games as the people in the tournament, because sometimes they would complete a goal that took testers maybe 40 minutes, they would complete it in 20 minutes. But then there's times where the testers completed a goal a lot quicker than the people who played the games. So Blast said this multiple times on the stream, that it's a puzzle game. People click different mechanics at different points. People will get walled at different points. Doing a tournament with this specific genre of games probably is the hardest to get the goal right for everybody, because there's just so many different skill sets and everything. Even, for example, there was a runner, I'll just say it, their NASA staff, Dark Fox. He played, what was it, Adventures of Lolo 2? Now, he didn't win, but then for fun, he decided to get that game, let his friends, his roommates, play that game and see if they would do as well as him or if they would do worse than him. And they didn't even get close to where he made it to, and they were just as blind as the game to him. So, there's so many different skill sets of people, and obviously we had really strong puzzle players who joined the tournament, and we had not so strong puzzle people join the tournament. So, am I supposed to now make a goal to go in between? That was the whole point. I did make a goal that goes in between. Some people are better, some people worse. That's just how it is in anything, really. So, I disagree with the bad goals in general. We did the best. If you want to help shape the goals, become a tester, and we can get a maybe more accurate average for how to do things.
And then going back to what we said before, not going to elaborate it on too much, but just having more user submissions make more people submit stuff than we have usually a more diverse set of games, even though it's still puzzle genre specific. But usually a person who submits a specific game is usually a game they like, and then you have the taste of a bunch of different kind of people. So that's how you get that variety. So yeah, just going back to that, just having people submit or just spending more time submitting more games too.
Yeah, I think one of the central themes we're getting out of this discussion is that if we had more manpower, then we wouldn't have had so many of the issues that we would have gone through. Remember, this was for the large part, this was a 2-person operation between me and Arians. I mean, there were definitely other people. Huge shout outs to those crazy guys for helping out with the testing. We even got other NASA staff involved, like Lurk, helping out with moderating matches from time to time too. And certainly without their contributions, the tournament wouldn't have been able to get through the snail's pace that it was going so far. But yeah, if we had more testers going through all the games and making more judgment calls on whether these games would be good for a tournament, or whether the games were actual puzzle games, then maybe there wouldn't have been so many complaints about the overall quality, because I know in our chat here there were a couple of examples between Goof Troop and the Toho game Fantasy Explorer Nitride. I like that game, damn it. I will continue to defend that as a puzzle game, because it was a bit Metroidvania-ish, but it was quite I thought it was quite a fun puzzling experience, and the testers apparently it followed suit on that. So yeah, more people, more games, more submissions. A lot of these issues could have been avoided with that. But yeah, I think that's the overwhelming message that we're getting so far.
Yeah. And just as we're moving forward with the rest of this, because we only have a couple questions back, I'd say you guys probably want to try to keep it a little bit more brief. I guess we probably covered mostly everything, but instead of like just referring back to like some points we mentioned before, we'll just look at maybe some things that we haven't touched on. So did you guys have anything else for the weakest part section?
No.
I think that
Dude, shout outs to
mic drop. There's the mic drop. No, we still,
yes.
There's still a few things to take care of.
Anyways, while Aries is dealing with that, we'll move on. We'll talk about what's going on next. The next section's going to just say, what changes would you like to see for the next tournament? And it's a lot of similar things to the weakest part. So hard deadlines is one thing someone mentioned, which we talked about a little bit, but that's one thing we do need to work on very specifically. I think deadlines, just making things more concise, that's how things will just generally finish better. Having tournament finish faster, better games like usual, larger pool of moderators, a lot of similar things I saw before. Not so much that I want to touch on. Is there any points on here you guys wanted to reflect more upon?
I think we kind of went over everything at this point. That changes that they would like to see, like, yeah, everything that I kind of see here. The one thing that I will kind of go over a little bit is this allowing restreams on Puzzle General or Mystery Funhouse instead of just NASA channel. That it's not that they weren't allowed. It was just literally, if I'm the only person restreaming and I have access to 3 channels and NASA is the biggest channel, why would I choose to stream to the other 2 channels? So it's not that it wasn't allowed. It's just there was no point to restream to the other channels. If I had more restreamers and I had multiple matches going on at the same time, it would make more sense. But otherwise, it's...
You'll probably see that more in the future for like early rounds of tournaments. I could almost guarantee that, depending on what specifically it is. Like,
yeah,
whenever this tournament may happen again.
So it's not that it wasn't allowed. It's just it didn't make any sense. If we're trying to get a stream that reaches the most amount of people, then that's just... it's just how it is. So
I guess, yeah. Anything else on that one, guys? Because I'm pretty good with it, because we could just wrap up with these last 2 questions and give our final thoughts about the picture of whole and going forward, what we're going to do differently.
Yeah, I guess so.
So heading into the last 2 questions, it was, did you want to see another NPC? And there was a final thoughts section. We can talk about that in a little bit too, but a lot of the final thoughts things are just what we've seen from the previous questions. But yeah, from the do you want to see Mystery Puzzle Challenge happen again? We actually have a yes from everyone but 2, which is like 85%. So it's definitely something people do want to see. I think people probably still had fun despite how long it took. It was probably just frustrating for the most part. Like, just, waiting so long and taking up their own time, because not only like the moderators and staff, they're using their own time, but participants are volunteering their time too. And there was the medals as a reward, but it's not like you're getting anything in return besides the satisfaction. But I'm glad to see people still like the concept, and we'll give it another chance if we improve upon stuff, which I think we can. It really all comes down to manpower, more precise details, scheduling, availability, multiple things, which we touched on earlier.
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned earlier, the idea is solid. It's the execution that has to be improved upon. So, for the 2 people who said that they would not join, I'm very sorry that you apparently had an experience that didn't merit you wanting to do another one. So I'm very sorry if that's how things ended up. Hopefully, if we do a really good NPC2, you might change your mind and come back for, hopefully, if we do an NPC3. So.
And to touch a little bit what Saber said in the chat, I definitely agree. Like I mentioned before, to have it on both channels. It really, what it comes down to is the point of the tournament and consistency, like we mentioned before. Because if you switch between a lot of the channels, a lot of the times you might not know where the action's going on. But if you keep it consistent, you can make that work with multiple channels and keeping like the later rounds on one channel, because then conflictions won't be an issue. But like getting all communities involved, I definitely love that, because you definitely have, let's say for the Mystery Funhouse, obviously that's mystery tournament people mostly watching that. Puzzle General is just like speedrun puzzles or just competitive puzzlers, even casual puzzlers, and then you got mostly speedrunners watching NASA. So any way you can involve all the communities, which that's why we had it on NASA in the first place. I like to see all the communities work together, because then you never know when you find something new that you're going to enjoy, and a lot of people do find that. I remember when Mystery Tournament 10 happened, when they got that insane 300 person entrance after the GDQ shout out. There's still a lot of people in that community who that was their first tournament. They probably would have never found out about it if it wasn't showcased on a different platform. So I'm always for that. It's just sometimes it's a little bit complicated to figure out the best way to do it.
I think we just need to let the tournament grow a bit in order to have things make more logistical sense when multiple places. Again, like this is only a 34 tournament. This was only a 34-person double elimination tournament. If we reach mystery tournament levels of participation or randomizer levels of participation, it becomes a lot easier to figure out, okay, well, this place is going to have this match and that place is going to have that match. But again, if it's just one stream, the resources are fairly thin. I'm not opposed to doing streams on multiple channels, just for the record. I would think it would be really freaking cool if there was streams on multiple channels. It's just that logistically it didn't work out for this tournament. Cards, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, there was something I had in mind, but I think it'd be saved for the last question. I don't want to be premature on it specifically.
Okay. I guess we'll scroll down to the final question then, which was any thoughts on the tournament you would like to say if you haven't said it yet. I'll let Card start it then, since he kind of wants to go.
I mean, yeah, there was a general sentiment that it was a good first try, and yeah, the first one of anything is hardly any event. The first time is going to be the best that it's going to be at that time, but I think there was a general sentiment that the first one was this was pretty good for a first try, and yeah, so someone else pointing out more of the live restreams, which again that's an issue of manpower, and we really did not have the manpower for this tournament. So and like I was mentioning before, a lot of the issues that we ran into during this tournament could have been made a lot easier with more bodies to support things. So one of the ideas that is presented here that we may want to talk about a bit was how maybe collaborating more directly with the SRL mystery people. I mean I had mentioned earlier about coordinating with them to schedule the tournament, but maybe we can try to draw on some of them directly to directly involve themselves with us a bit more to get more people involved. How is that as a thought?
I do like that, and specifically, it's really good timing because SRL Mystery was mostly just those two big tournaments each year, but now they've been branching out with more sub tournaments because there has been more shown interest with the Rejects tournament and the 2v2 tournament coming up. I think if it doesn't, well, like work around it so it doesn't overlap with one of their tournaments, but I'd definitely be willing to, if they would like to, put more power into their hands, and then they could help us out, but we could also, what's the word I'm looking for? Just if they have a little bit more responsibility, then they can control the tournament themselves. It could be a 50-50 split, so they can decide what they want to do in some instances as well. So it doesn't like just only benefit us; it benefits them half as much as well.
Because I mean, we have a bit of a community ourselves over Puzzle General. Like we've got several hundred people, and there's not that much overlap between us and SRL Mystery. Like we could definitely I can definitely see ourselves getting into a partnership like that and use both of our combined forces to make this tournament grow a bit more.
I definitely agree. I think if we do it, we will probably reach out to that community because it's definitely apparent they've been doing it for way longer than us and they run it a lot better. So it wouldn't be too bad to get some tips and some manpower from them as well. So that's definitely an option, a option we will probably explore.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm totally down for collaborating with people. I mean, even though this tournament was a collaboration, it technically wasn't, if I'm still the person who did most of it. I don't know how that logistically works out, but I mean, it was a collaboration of two resources that I had available to me, the NASA resources and the Puzzle General resources. So if Mystery Crew want to help out, if we reach out to them and they want to help out, I'm totally into that. It obviously opens up restreamers and moderators who are experienced and know what they're doing. Obviously, the systems would be a little bit changed up because the runners would be streaming to like our RTMP and everything like that. Again, we don't know how logistically the tournament would work out, but there's definitely a lot of positives to teaming up with Mystery Crew and not a lot of negatives, if any. I'm sure that somebody can maybe think of some.
The
again,
positives heavily outweigh the negatives.
Yeah, the only thing that really like was the main concern for this tournament, because again, one of the things that we could have done is we have a very good standing with Feasel with our speedrun tournaments. We could have easily streamed to Speed Gaming for our finals, and we didn't because again, I wanted control of the tournament VODs as just that's one of the things I wanted to do. I didn't want to compromise on that. Maybe that was a mistake, maybe it wasn't. In any case, we definitely have options available to us, and if Mystery Crew can give also that sort of control, let's say, to the VODs or anything like that, then I don't see any reason not to partner with them at all. So
Yeah, should be also point out, as is pointed out in chat, the Mystery Funhouse crew does have some collaboration to some extent with GDQ, and that would definitely having that kind of in would definitely allow a very substantial viewership pool to at least draw in people with.
yeah, and I mean it's just actually being hosted on GDQ would make me kind of nervous because I mean the layouts for the stream was okay, but I don't think it was like super amazing for thousands of people to watch. I mean, I'm just critical of my own work, I guess, but if the more basically the more people that are helping out with the tournament means that I can focus my efforts into different places that I think require more effort into them, like the layout, like I just mentioned. I can get more um, work into that to make it look really nice, because I now have graphics artist contacts that I can uh, tap into and get something actually really nice looking for the next tournament, for example. Because I mean, I'm decent in Photoshop, but I know people who are way better at me in Photoshop, so I can get more stuff. If I'm not needing to worry about this, I can worry about that. If I'm not needing to worry about restreaming every single day, then I can work more on a post-match thing, for example. So the less work that I have to do in total means that I can focus on the weaker parts of the tournament that people feel need more focusing on. So it just all comes back down to manpower. Like if Cards didn't have to moderate basically every other match, I'm sure he could have done logistically a lot more for the tournament itself if he was so. It just all comes down to manpower.
I think that has been the only takeaway from this. Like if we had more people, the execution would have been better. And I don't know if you can put it any differently than that.
Yo, sorry, I'm getting distracted by something now. Oh, I do agree with everything. Though it's like obviously like a lot of the blame's on me. I feel like there's going to be some faults still, but since this was a project that I brought up, that the manpower could have been very well used during it. But I guess it's something we know now. And go ahead, Aries.
I was just gonna say, like, I think the difference would have been if you were available at the start. I think the start of the tournament would have just gone a bit smoother because if I wasn't worried on trying to make sure that matches would be restreamed and everything like that, we would have you to, for example, make sure that people are being bothered every single day to go do your freaking match. For example, if I'm focusing more on the stream production settings of it all, and you were focusing on the actual tournament logistics, I think the initial ride would have just been a lot smoother, which probably would have translated into a quicker, smoother tournament, basically. But without that, it's just efforts had to be placed elsewhere. I don't run tournaments again. I'm marathon technical director. I go for the stream and the production of it all. That's where I excel in. That's what I focus on. So the actual tournament logistics took a bit of a hit with that.
For sure, for sure. I guess since we've only almost been talking for 2 hours already, you guys got any final thoughts on the final thoughts section, and then we can wrap this thing up?
Honestly, I want to be able to do this tournament again, and I would like to be able to do it right. It's I don't know what else to say about it.
that's like a big motivation too. It's like when something kind of just does go a little bit wrong like this, it gives you that motivation. You're like, I do want to do it correctly, and then the people actually want to see it done better too. So that's even better motivation on our parts. And for me, it's just wanting to be more involved with it since I was gone for most of the time. So yeah, I would love to see a second part of this, and hopefully it can go 100 times better than this, even though this wasn't like the worst, obviously. But always room for improvement, no matter what you do.
Yeah, I think that's really the takeaway of it. I wanted to pull off a tournament with above production quality expectations. That's why it has little intro video and everything like that. Could be improved upon. I think production value-wise, the tournament itself did a lot better than a lot of other tournaments. Because again, there was the little intro video that showcased the game itself and everything like that. It could be improved, obviously, a lot, but I think that there's a lot that can be played around with and can be improved on after doing like this. And like most things that I do, like with the actual NASA marathon, whatever doesn't work, I spend the year making sure that it is the best it can be for the next time, the weakest parts of it. And that's so I'm fairly certain we will do an NPC 2, and I'm fairly certain that it will be back at a much higher quality than what it was the first time around, and I think people will be very happy with the tournament going, wow, this is a major improvement, and I really glad that it happened again. So that's what I think I want to happen, and I will do my best to make happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess with all that out of the way, we can give our last little final thoughts, some things maybe in the future that are going to be going on. And I'll speak first just as a quick roundup for the tournament. And this is going to apply for future things hosted by Puzzle General and NPC in the future when it's going to happen. But it's just going to be a little bit more strict, a little bit more concise. We're going to have a strict schedule. We're going to have information laid out to people. I think the big thing we're going to stress is just making sure everything's wrote down and easily accessible so that everyone has access to it. Everyone can schedule their stuff pretty easily, and so it doesn't run over time. And we're going to try these new styles, hopefully, with the upcoming speedrun tournaments or whatever we're going to be doing on Puzzle General in the meantime. So if there is anyone watching who's more used to like this non-content, because maybe you didn't even watch NPC because it was on a different channel, we will be having more events in the future, as I touched upon lightly at the beginning of this. So stick around. We're going to make NPC2 infinitely better. We're going to have more tournaments and more content on this channel because that's what I ultimately wanted to be, whether it's tournaments, just fun nights, anything to get people involved in puzzles, because that's really what I care about. Just, having people enjoy some puzzles, competitive, casual, whatever it may be, have some fun.
Yeah, I mean, like for myself, I obviously have the actual NASA marathon happening next week. So that's where a lot of my efforts are being focused right now. Afterwards, I don't know if I will probably help in a technical aspect for any future Puzzle General tournaments and stuff, but I won't be helping out in a logistical sense. But I do have more ideas to play around in a stream sort of space that will involve puzzle speedruns or matches or anything like that. It's in the works. Might be another NASA collaboration. I'm not sure yet. It might. It's in the works. Probably won't talk about it for another 2 months, let's say. But it's. I think it'll be interesting and it will definitely be really cool to have it going on. So it will. Puzzle General is going to be a major part in this idea. Is all I'll say.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
From you, Cards, anything else to input?
I don't have anything specific chaining to me. I probably want to throw another shout out to a NASA marathon. That's gonna be a good watch next week. Like the first day is supposed to have Puyo Puyo Tetris. So
Can't go wrong with
there's
that.
there's something for the puzzle fans in there to watch too. So yeah, go watch NASA marathon next week. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I can already tell.
Yeah, and as an add-on to that, there's so many events going on in the summer. Obviously, SGDQ as well. ESA's happening sometime. I don't know when exactly that is. Dates always shift around and stuff. But there's so many speed runs to watch. There's puzzle events that happen all the time too. So always, we're going to be getting better with it. But we have a list of groups that we're affiliated with in our Discord. Always check them out. Like, support the puzzles, support the speed runs. Always some fun stuff happening. But thanks to everyone who participated. Thanks for everyone who helped out. Thanks for Cards and Aries, especially for taking the mainstay of it. And I'm glad the overall impression people really did enjoy it. So yeah, we're going to take a break for a while. We're going to do some tournaments in between, but hopefully we'll see NPC 2 in the future, and it should be a lot of fun. So I guess that does it for us. Thanks for everyone watching, and hopefully you guys could understand where we were coming from this tournament. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun next time it comes around too. So thanks for watching. It's been BB Forky, Cards of the Heart, and Dark Aries, and we'll see you guys next time.
Until next time, everyone.
See ya.